I've been digging and found gun hacks serious shooters quietly use to make every shot cleaner, save ammo, and stop the little malfunctions that ruin range days. You're about to see the exact drills, gear tweaks, and maintenance moves. I run and test, so you get measurable results, not internet snake oil. What's up? This is Luke from Line 45. Today, I'm walking you through each hack, how I test it, and how to apply it safely and legally. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe, tap the bell, hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for y'all. Alright, enough of that. Let's get back to it. Worst to first. Prep your gear like a pro. I run a 5-minute worst to first checklist before every range session so gear problems never steal my training. First thing I do is magazines. Inspect feed lips for burrs. Confirm followers move freely. And drop each mag to feel spring tension and seating. Bad magazines are the single biggest cause of stovepipes and failures to feed, so I carry 2 backups and rotate mags instead of abusing one spring until it goes sour. Next, I separate ammo into labeled pouches for training, match, and defensive loads and count them aloud. I cycle a dummy round through each mag and perform a slide or bolt function check so I know magazines and basic mechanics are honest before I rack the first live round. Then I run an empty chamber simulation with the firearm clear and a chamber flag in place. Manipulate the slide or bolt, actuate safeties, and verify trigger reset and slide stop engagement. I visually inspect the bore and forcing cone and run a bore snake or patch to remove grit. An obstructed barrel or fouled crown ruins groups and is dangerous. Electronics get a battery check, and I finger tighten optic screws to spec since loose mounts and dead batteries are invisible killers on the line. I wipe critical friction surfaces with solvent and put a light film of lube on rails and contact points only. Excess grease attracts grit and kills reliability. Finally, I stage gear in the exact order I'll use it. Mags on the reload side, optic on, holster retention set, and a checklist taped to my bag so my drills test skill, not equipment. Dry fire work that actually transfers. I build my week around short, intense, dry fire sessions because the mechanics you groove without recoil are the things that actually hold up when the noise and jump show up. I do focus drills, trigger press and reset with a click count tempo, smooth presentation from the holster with a 1-second pause on the sights, and immediate follow-up resets. The NRA and other training authorities showed dry fire is a high-leverage practice method for sight alignment, trigger control, and draw work. And modern tools like snap caps and laser trainers let you measure what used to be guesswork. How I avoid useless, disconnected reps is simple. Every drill has a metric and a limiter. I use a shot timer or a training app. I never exceed a set number of reps per set, and I always finish with a live fire sanity check when ammo is available. Experts warn that dry fire can create a false sense of speed if you dry fire way faster than you can shoot live, so I pair slow, correct reps with tempo work that actually matches my live fire cadence. That keeps the transfer real and measurable. For real-world carry and defensive work, I add context. Practice draws, wearing the clothes I actually carry in, run reloads from the position I'll use in a fight, and use an optic or iron sight, so my sight picture stays identical between dry and live session. Law enforcement and military trainers use dry fire because it's logistic friendly and builds neural pathways for motor skills that translate under stress. If you want drills, start with 3 times sets of 9 reps for trigger reset, 3 holster draws to a 1-second on-site hold, and 2 magazine change drills. Keep notes, track progress, and always keep safety rituals rigid so dry fire stays effective and safe. Ammo smart training on a budget. I treat ammo budgeting like a training plan. Get as many quality reps as possible while still validating your defensive load regularly. For technical work, I use rimfire and dry fire to build trigger control and sight tracking. Then I burn bulk center fire for high-volume drills, so I'm not crying over the bill. Rimfire training stretches reps dramatically compared with center fire, and bulk 9mm today commonly runs in the low 20s of cents per round, which lets me run sustained drills without wrecking the bank. My range sequence is purposeful. Start with precision and skill transfer on a 22 or dry fire. Move to volume work with full metal jacket or other inexpensive practice loads that match grain weight when possible. Then finish with a short block of your defensive hollow points to confirm feeding, extraction, and point of impact. Industry training guides and reputable instructors stress that practice and defensive rounds behave differently. FMJ for economy and function checks, JHP for terminal performance. So you must verify your carry load periodically in the gun you carry. Agencies and organized training bodies also require live fire checks with service-grade ammo during qualifications and courses, which is why I run a few mags of defensive rounds every month or two. On numbers, I use a repeatable split. Roughly 70 to 80% cheap practice reps, 15 to 25% carry, similar loads for recoil parity and POI checks, and about 5 to 10% defensive rounds to confirm function and rotate stock. I rotate magazines and springs, label boxes, and always run a 3-shot POI or a quick chrono check when I switch brands or barrels. That system gives me maximum trigger time, sensible logistics, and the confidence that my actual defensive ammunition will behave when it matters. Concealment and comfort hacks that don't suck. I've spent years dialing carry position, and honestly, the biggest win is getting the holster, belt, and garment to work as one system. Start with a molded Kydex holster that offers positive retention and a full sweat guard so the firearm doesn't chew your shirt or slide down when you sit. Use a quality gun belt rated for carry, stiff, single, or double-layer leather, or a reinforced nylon belt, because a floppy belt lets the whole setup sag and print. For IWB carry, I experiment with ride height and cant. A slightly forward cant and a lower ride height the grip better for most body types, while appendix demands a thinner profile and stronger retention to prevent shifting when you move. Position your spare magazines where you naturally reach. For me, that's a slight offset behind the support side hip, so reloads are mechanical and not a reach exercise. Finally, break in the holster by cycling an inert training gun and adjust the sweat guard and retention screws so the draw is smooth, but the gun stays put. Comfort matters as much as concealment because if it's miserable, you won't carry. Pick grips and rounds that control perceived recoil and bulk. A slimmer grip profile and rounded backstrap reduce pressure points against your body. Layering is your friend. A breathable undershirt plus a slightly larger outer shirt masks printing without turning you into a sauna. Use holster clips or bolts that sit close to the waistband so the holster rides tight to the body, and add a small neoprene or leather pad behind the holster if metal hardware digs into you. Finally, routinely reevaluate. Weight shift from extra mags or a heavier pistol shows up after a few hours, so do a 4-hour wear test before you commit to a new setup and rotate carry methods to avoid hot spots and chronic discomfort. Maintenance shortcuts that save time. Pro tip: run a 5-minute maintenance routine every time you get home from the range, so small problems never turn into malfunctions later. After you clear the gun and drop the mags, I strip the action to basic pieces. Run a single bore snake pass or 1 wet patch and 1 dry patch to remove bulk fouling. Then give the rails, locking surfaces, and feed ramp a quick wipe with a solvent wipe. I only apply a thin film of lubricant to rails and cam surfaces, just enough to shine, because excess grease traps grit and kills reliability. Metal-on-metal contact points get a dot of oil. Polymer interfaces get nothing unless the maker says otherwise. A soft toothbrush or an old paintbrush clears carbon from tiny recesses faster than rags, and compressed air or a quick blow clears dust from optic turrets and crevices without disassembly. Magazines get their own 5-minute audit. I look for cracked feed lips, bent followers, and gritty bases, then cycle a dummy round through each one to confirm smooth feeding. I avoid keeping mags fully loaded for months. I rotate them and keep a training set at about 80% to preserve spring life. For pistols with interchangeable springs, I swap or bench test springs every 6 to 12 months, depending on round count. When time allows, I toss small parts like trigger packs and pins into an ultrasonic or ultrasonic equivalent soak for a deep clean, but I always function check and do a dry cycle before range use. Final step: a live empty function check, chamber flag in place, and a checklist note taped in my range bag with the last service date. Do that 5-minute routine, and you cut most field failures out of your training. Range day efficiency. Good shooting under stress is mostly built from simple, repeatable drills that force your motor patterns to work when your brain is foggy. I train with a ladder of difficulty. Dry fire to lock in trigger and sight tracking, slow live fire for precision, tempo work for controlled speed, then high adrenaline strings with movement and reloads so the skills translate under pressure. When I build a session, I always include a failure to fire drill, immediate tap rack, and a reload under time so muscle memory covers the obvious stuff before panic sets in. Use a shot timer for measurable progress and keep reps short and focused. Quantity without structure is just noise. Movement and breathing change everything. I practice presenting from retention, getting a solid firing stance in 2 steps, and punching the sight back on target on the first follow-up. For movement, I step, re-anchor, and get the sight picture, not sprint and hope, because stability beats raw speed for hits. I also pair reloads with movement, so mag changes happen while I'm repositioning. That makes them mechanical and reduces time exposed. When using cover, understand the geometry. Small positional shifts can expose or obscure more target than big moves, so practice slicing angles and presenting from behind minimal edges. Tactical breathing between strings calms heart rate and keeps vision clearer, so I breathe down for 2 counts, push, and recover. Decision-making and legal hygiene are part of the skill set, not optional extras. I rehearse verbal de-escalation lines, sight picture confirmation before applying force, and the post-incident checklist: call, secure the scene, and preserve evidence. Training logs matter for credibility. Record dates, ammo, drills, and outcomes so you can show regular, deliberate practice if needed. Finally, simulate stress safely with a qualified instructor before you ever try force-on-force work. Use protective gear and treat every scenario as teachable. That layered approach, technical skill, movement, breathing, and legal rehearsals, gives you usable competence, not just confidence. Legal, safety, and de-escalation basics everyone skips. Quick pre-range routine that prevents the dumbest failures. Run a 5-step check so your session tests skill, not broken kit. First, inspect magazines for burrs, cracked feed lips, and sticky followers. Then cycle a dummy round through each one so seating and feed are honest. Next, split ammo into labeled pouches for dry fire, bulk practice, and defensive loads, and only open the defensive pouch for final function checks. Third, perform a visual bore and crown inspection and run a single bore snake or patch pass. A fouled crown wrecks groups, and an obstructed bore is dangerous. Fourth, verify optics and irons tighten screws to torque spec and confirm 0 with a quick 3-shot POI check if anything changed. Fifth, stage everything in the order you'll use it. Mags on your reload side, flagged firearm on the bench, and a checklist taped to the bag. On empty gun verification, do a chamber flag manipulation while pointed in a safe direction. Rack the slide or bolt, actuate safeties, confirm trigger reset, and press the slide stop to ensure engagement. Swap batteries for any electronics under spec and carry spares in a labeled pocket. Rotate magazines instead of leaving one loaded full-time to protect springs and lifespan. Finish with a live empty function check using a single inert run-through and then a 1-round function check with the defensive round you plan to carry. That final confirmation is non-negotiable. Do this 5-minute routine before every session, and you'll cut 80% of range day failures and keep training focused.